Welcome to the fourth podcast in the Guilty Parent Club series. In our last episode, we heard about the difference between parent guilt and parent shame and why these emotions are not our fault, but why especially shame can be so unhelpful for our mental health and our ability to be the parent we want to be. Shame, more than guilt, can feed into that chronic cycle of us being reactive and dysregulated with our kids and feeling full of self-doubt and anxiety. So far in this series, we have learnt about the complex factors that are at play in keeping these cycles going. We've understood that we have no real chance of putting parenting strategies into place if we're stuck in these cycles of stress ourselves. But at the same time, if we do not have tools to help us manage difficult moments with our kids, if we feel we're struggling to get them to listen to our boundaries, if they are becoming dysregulated at these moments, and when we feel less and less connected to them, of course, all of this is going to feed into our cycle of dysregulation too. And that's why the 6P key framework tackles both what's going on for us as parents and what's going on for your child. Remember, the 6P keys are imperfection, perspective, predictability, playfulness, power, and physical support. So, in this podcast and the next one, I'm going to take you through, step by step, how each one applies for us as parents and how it applies for our children. Don't forget, you can find all this information and more in the workbook that goes along with this Guilty Parent Club series. You can download it for free using the link in the show notes. And I want to start by thinking about the parent P keys, how each one tackles a different part of these cycles of self-doubt, reactivity, and guilt that we've just heard about. Each one tackles it from a different perspective so that we can really break these cycles down, help ourselves to feel more regulated, calmer, more confident as parents, more connected to our children, and more able to be the kind of parent that we want to be. And after that, we'll move on to the child P keys, where we'll be thinking about different tools that can help bring our child into a more regulated state, get them more on our team so that they're able to listen to us and also to develop skills for the future. If you're eager to jump forward to the child P keys to find out the types of tools that can help you manage in those tricky boundary setting situations, just hop forward about 3 podcasts and you will find them there. But don't forget to come back to the parent P keys. Okay, so let's get going with the parent half of the 6P key framework. The parent P key we're going to start with is the parent perspective key. It's our first stop in these 6 different ways that we will be breaking down our parent reactivity and guilt cycle together. And in this key, we get into the heart of noticing our own reactions as parents. Noticing those wobbly moments when we're triggered, when we're overwhelmed, when we're left feeling guilty after an interaction with our child. And rather than jumping to criticize ourselves, we want to build up an awareness of what's actually happening in those moments. In our minds, in our bodies, our emotions, and even in the knee-jerk urges that we might feel. And by tuning in, we can start to interrupt that automatic threat mode reaction, which is when we feel emotionally hijacked and things can spiral a bit. Awareness of what's going on for us is always the first step towards being able to do something differently. So in the parent perspective key, we explore proven techniques to help us pause and then regulate ourselves enough in those tough moments. We are not talking about complete calm. We're talking about being able to make more conscious responses rather than reacting automatically. And I guide you through a series of core exercises. We practice breaking down our reactions using a mental videotape exercise designed to slow everything down. And then we look at creating our pause signal, which is almost like a little mental red flag or alarm bell to help us catch the triggers before things escalate. We also examine the stories that we tell ourselves in stressful parenting moments. And this is sometimes where guilt, self-judgment, and those old thoughts like, I'm a terrible parent who's messing up the kids, start to creep in. I call these second layer thoughts. We actually explore these a bit more in the parent predictability key. But just being aware of these different types of thoughts can help us to reduce that second wave of stress on top of the stress that we're actually experiencing with our child in the moment. And then comes my BALM exercise, one of my favourite tools that I created especially for stressed out parents. It's a quick but powerful way of soothing yourself in the moment, but it can also be used as a daily check-in to help you stay more on an even keel. BALM stands for breathe, allow, label, and mantra. So we start by bringing our attention to our breath. And we also learn a couple of techniques that can help switch on our parasympathetic nervous system. The allow is about allowing our emotions, allowing our experience in that moment, bringing a spotlight to become aware of what's happening for us. The label is about getting a little bit more specific about what we've just found, bringing online that name it to tame it skill. And mantra is about having some stock phrases that we can easily bring to mind at tricky moments that we know help us get through those difficult situations. The good thing about it is that you can use it as a whole in order to take that pause and regulate yourself, or you can just use each of the 4 steps separately, so it's very flexible, easy to use in quick moments, as well as incorporating it more into your daily routine as a parent. Check out the workbook that you can access via the show notes for a reminder of these steps. Of course, we do a much deeper dive into how to use the BALM exercise in the full Guilty Parent Club, but it is something that you can try right away. We'll also build up a toolkit of practical, body-based, bottom-up strategies that tap into our parasympathetic nervous system to help us regulate. From temperature changes, movement, to simple sensory grounding, all of these things that help us get our thinking brains back online. Becoming more aware and better at regulating yourself as a parent doesn't just help you to feel more in control, but it also gives your child the chance to borrow your calm. It models emotional regulation and it creates a more settled environment for everybody. The idea, of course, isn't to be calm all the time, but just to be a bit more prepared for those tricky moments and to know that you've got some practical ways that you can handle them. So that was the parent perspective key. And next up, we're going to move on to some practical ways to address some of the root causes of our dysregulation as parents. Because it's all very well having strategies that we can use in the moment to help ourselves feel more regulated, but unless we tackle what's going on underneath, why we're getting triggered so easily, then we're not going to have much chance of staying calmer in those moments. So do join me in the next episode where we explore more of the parent P keys that help us do just that. Thank you for tuning into today's episode. If this episode resonated for you, I would love you to join us in the Guilty Parent Club. As a member of the club, you'll gain access to exclusive private podcasts and workbooks providing deeper dives into these topics, taking you step by step through the 6 P key framework, and they're packed with practical tools that you can apply straight away. For more details, head over to drjoethepsychologist.com/Guilty Parent Club. See you there.